So now we come down to it. We know the evidence is sufficient to show that General Lee intentionally caused the order to be dropped at Barton Mitchell's feet, expecting the likelihood was great McClellan would read it. But why do such a thing? What did he expect to gain from doing it? This is the ultimate question we must answer. We find the answer by understanding the strategic reality General Lee knew his country was facing. When he took up the duty of leading the young Americans to their battles, he knew, as would any reasonably intelligent soldier know, that the political communities constituting the Confederacy would be conquered in the end. There was no way around the reality. He generally understood, as Lincoln had said, that the people of the seceded states were outmanned and outgunned by the Union, that they did not have the material means to make much of a hand at whipping the Union. The only chance of their gaining their political independence from the Union was for Great Britain, the superpower of the age, to bring her naval power to bear against Lincoln's blockade, opening the way for her commercial fleet of merchantmen to steam into southern ports, bringing in their holds the material, goods the seceded states needed to support their soldiers in the field. And even then, the outcome would be far from certain. Given the hard reality that the population of the seceded states could not replenish the ranks of their armies in a war based upon the principle of attrition. But it was a forlorn hope. Lee knew that Great Britain would intervene. The Royal Navy was stretched thin, protecting the integrity of the British Empire that encompassed the world at the time. Diverting the fleet to America was not a possibility, and doing so would put the integrity of Canada at risk. And when the war ended in the Union's favor, the British intervention would leave the parties in a state of animosity that would take a long time to dissolve. And so, with this irrefutable conclusion of the war animating his mind, General Lee recognized that the moment was ripe for President Davis to make his best effort at negotiating a peace with the Union. A peace leaving the white people of the seceded states in the dire strait of a revolutionary time, trapped with the Africans, leaving them in terror and chaos when freedom for the Africans came and the races engaged in a violent struggle for control of government. But the alternative, continuing to resist the Union invasion of their land, would leave their cities smoking ruins, their farmland empty of animals, their fields wasted, a generation of their children gone to the grave, all their capital gone with the wind. But for now, in this moment, General Lee's operations had cleared Virginia of Lincoln's armies. And coming up on his left flank was Bragg's army marching toward the Ohio River through Kentucky. The people of the adhering states were in alarm. Those in the borderland were rushing with their possessions deeper into the Union for protection. General Lee's position at Virginia's frontier, blocking Lincoln's program of invasion, was now the crucial thing in his mind. Falling back now behind the Rapidan, giving up 75 miles of territory without a battle, would leave President Davis without credibility in offering Lincoln a chance for peace. Somehow, the Army must hold its position at the Potomac. Somehow, hold McClellan's army at bay long enough to give Davis time to extend his hand to Lincoln, suggesting it was time for peace. But how to do it? Given the fact the numerical strength of Lee's army was now hardly a third of what it was when it battled McClellan at Richmond, it's impossible now to charge McClellan out. The best the Army can hope to do is offer McClellan battle at a place where its flanks are impossible to be turned, where McClellan has to break through the Army's front to win the battle. And everyone with reasonable intelligence examining the map can see that place is behind the Antietam. And we immediately see, too, that it cannot be the Antietam if 13,000 Union soldiers with 50 pieces of artillery and 2,000 cavalrymen are in position at Harper's Ferry to block our line of retreat from the battlefield. To fight McClellan at the Antietam, the Union force of the ferry must be rendered out of action. And this cannot be done by charging the fortifications of the place. For if the strength of Lee's army be diminished further, even the constricted front the folds of the Potomac provide at Sharpsburg will be too large a front to defend against McClellan's. And so Lee must have sat with Jackson on camp stools and constructed the text of Special Order 191, framing it as they thought a reasonable person in McClellan's circumstances would read it, with the view that it would induce McClellan to choose to move his army toward Boonesboro instead of toward the ferry. The movement giving Jackson the thin chance to intimidate the ferry garrison's commander to shy from defending the place to the last extremity and surrender. In the event, President Davis ignored General Lee's recommendation to use the moment to propose to Lincoln they find ground to agree upon peace.